podcast is sponsored by Gwinnett Drugs, a pharmacy dedicated to advancing the profession through innovation and high-quality compounding. Gwinnett Drugs continues to create modern, patient-centered solutions that elevate the standard of care in pharmacy practice.
Welcome to Empower Her RX, the podcast where women in pharmacy share their voices, victories, and visions for a stronger profession. I'm Pam Merquis, joined by my amazing co-hosts, Lindsay McCoy and Katie Bell. Our guest today is Dr. Kristen Riddle, current president of the National Community Pharmacy Association. And we're going to talk about her story in pharmacy. We're here today to honor women who have made history breaking barriers and leading with purpose. So, Kristen, let me extend our warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much. It's exciting to be here with you guys.
Absolutely. So let's start off by going back to where it all began. This is something everybody wants to know, who loves you and follows you and is just wishing you the best year ever. Tell us about your journey into the profession of pharmacy.
Absolutely. I wanted to be a pharmacist from a young child, actually. I grew up in the pharmacy. I'm a second generation pharmacist. So my dad, my brother, and I would go hang out at the pharmacy with my dad while he was working, and they would give us jobs like dusting the shelves or scraping the auxiliary labels off the concrete, and just watch that staff serve our community. And then I actually wanted to go to pharmacy school from the very beginning and really set out as a pre-pharmacy student. Ended up making a C in Chem 1 and thought, well, I don't guess I can be a pharmacist. So changed my major multiple times, decided this is exactly what I want to do, and got a degree in dietetics for my undergrad and went on to pharmacy school, and the rest is history. I absolutely love it, and this is where I'm supposed to be.
I think that's so relatable that you can talk about how, like, you weren't the A+ student, right? Because I wasn't an A+ student. I had to repeat a year. So, but I think like that's something that a lot of people hide, especially as they get older, and further up in their careers, that they get, there's that shame or not wanting to talk about it. And I think that people forget how hard pharmacy school is. And I want them to know, like, you can keep going on. There's a spot for you somewhere, if this is your profession that you were chosen to be in, like, you can make it. I I have always had a struggle with trying to get the grades, and it just doesn't come naturally to me, but I love hearing when other people in leadership can say, like, relate to that struggle. Sorry to point that out to you.
No, actually, I recently had the opportunity through my alma mater, UAMS, University of Arkansas, College of Pharmacy, went to my undergrad, the University of Central Arkansas, and I got to talk to pre-pharmacy students, and I told them that story. And I told them, don't let a class or a test define you. If this is the path you want, you take it, and you can do it. When I got to pharmacy school, it just all connected. Organic was a little obscure. I get to pharmacy school, loved MedChem. Everything was a structure. It was a receptor. It had a purpose. And so I explained to the students, and I explained to pharmacy students now, that this is, if you want, and even if it's a dental student, whoever it is, if this is what you want to do, you can totally do it. And we are given a purpose, and you just keep after it.
I love that story because I think it shows true resilience and grit.
Yeah.
And I love a great grit, in anyone. But I think that females in leadership, we see so much grit. And so I love a story like that. I have a very similar story where in my 4th year of pharmacy school, my dad became very ill, and he was in a coma for 21 days. And the school, the College of Pharmacy, said to me, "We think you should withdraw, come back next year." And so you're a young individual trying to make a very life-changing decision. And luckily, I had a professor who stood in the gap for me. I was able to stay in school because, I say the same thing. What might have happened if I actually would have withdrawn? So I love a great story like that, and I love that you're so transparent that you would share life as a struggle, and as Katie said, not everybody talks about those moments where you make tough decisions, you go through the mud puddles in life, and you come out the other side stronger, and so I love a story like that, so that's
Especially when we're
incredible.
so used to the Instagram life, right? Like, where everyone just
Yeah.
shows the
Everything's
greatness. Everything's
picture
rainbows.
perfect, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So,
Yeah, we see kind of the end result, not the stumbling that got there.
right.
That's exactly right. And I think that God gives us people along the way to
Always.
just speak a little bit of truth to us. My mom was that person. So I laid everything out for her. And finally, I was one of my majors I had changed to was secondary education science. And she was like, Kristen, you really want to be a pharmacist? And so she was a teacher. And she was like, I think it's so amazing you want to be a teacher, but do you really want to be a teacher? And so anyway, so she just continued to encourage me. And I think for us as tenured pharmacists now, we are that person. And when we see that shining star that might be listening to maybe negative self-talk, we need to be the one to step in and say, hey, listen, don't listen to all that. You can do this. Keep going.
Abs
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you look back, you can only see that perspective when you look back at your life and say, that was a life-changing moment, and you appreciate your mom and dad standing in the gap and giving you wise counsel, and, I think that's so incredible. I really do. I love it. Love
Kristen,
it. Love it.
I'm curious, what are all of the majors that you had
Oh,
changed to?
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So started out pre-pharmacy and then I wanted to be a counselor. Then I pretty quickly went to secondary ed, biology. Um, Ended up switching to family consumer science, dietetics. Decided, don't want to be a dietitian. And that is ultimately after I got that undergrad degree, went on to pharmacy school. So,
You did do the
yeah.
gambit.
Yeah, that's
But here's what's so great. I have used my dietetics degree throughout my entire career as a pharmacist. So, women's health is one of my specialties in pharmacy. I worked in the compounding world for years and years and years. Absolutely love women's health compounding. Certainly used it in that world, but also right out of pharmacy school, my dad and his business partners at the time, I wasn't a partner in the pharmacy, they absolutely supported me to open a wellness center in our pharmacy, and so I did diet counseling. We got our CLIA wave, and we did cholesterol testing with a Clestech right out of pharmacy school. We had a bone density monitor where it would do a heel scan. We did that right out of pharmacy school, and so I absolutely loved it and combined the 2, and so again, it's that you just don't know how God's going to weave all the tapestries together, all the people, and how it's all going to work. And then you get to look back, as Pam said, and it's so fun. Just so fun.
it is
Well,
fun looking back on it.
yeah, I mean, you certainly have
But
had a trailblazing career and so many accomplishments. I mean, I named 3, but if you look at the span of your career, it's been amazing. And it's hard not for the 3 of us to really girl crush hard on you because it's just so it's inspiring. Even now, after all these years of being a pharmacist, I'm just so in awe of everything you do and how you balance it. You're an incredibly beautiful soul and so genuine and caring. And, you know, I've gotten to know you on a more personal level through NCPA. And so it's just so heartwarming to cheer you on and watch you continue just to lead throughout these years at NCPA. And so I think one of the top questions from our listeners is just going to be, you've made a lifelong commitment to leadership, to trailblazing. So in the beginning, when you started out in leadership, what led you to take that big plunge? I think it's one thing to be a president of an association, which is a huge mountain. But when you take on a leadership position with NCPA, it's over a decade commitment for you and your entire family. And so you guys have been so inspirational in that. But to talk a little bit about that
Absolutely.
leap of faith to walk that journey, that decade-long journey with NCPA.
Sure. Thank you, Pam. So I will say I did not set out to be in leadership with NCPA. And my encouragement for everyone is when you are asked to serve, you say yes. And I think that's really what happened. I was invited to be on committees. I was invited to have different service opportunities, and I agreed and stepped forward. And it was always so rewarding. I was able to meet colleagues and people in the profession and learn from them. I was always, thankfully, um, I had curiosity and I wanted to learn from other people. I would bring a notebook everywhere I went, and I still always have my little journal with me, and I would write down notes. I would find somebody in a room that I didn't know, sit by them at a table, and just be a sponge, just write down notes and learn from them. And many times it was tenured leaders, and many times in CPA. And I think they thought that was interesting, and they just continued to pour into me. So very early on, it was these famous people for all of us now that they just invested in me. And so I continued to serve. And then eventually I was asked to serve in my state, on a state level. And I said yes. And then I was asked to come in and interview for leadership with NCPA, and that's where you start that. It's actually 14 years, so about 5 years you serve as a vice president, and then you serve for 9 years on the board. And so I've only got this year as president, and then next year as immediate past president, and I'm done. It's crazy. It goes so fast,
How
so
does
fast. It's the most rewarding thing I've done so far. It's amazing.
how does someone find those opportunities to get involved?
First of all, you go to meetings. Go to meetings, participate. So, if there's a meeting that you have, and let's say there's a best practice forum, many times NCPA is something called Shoot the Breeze or a round table. Get around that table and talk to people and just be a part. So I think number one, that is how, and be involved in your state. Many times, whenever you are involved in your state, then that state is the one that is telling NCBA, there we have a shining star that is a hard worker and so smart, and we want them to be involved on a national level too. And so then as president, I was able to go through many CVs, applications for steering committees for NCPA. And whenever we have all these people from all over the US that come in, and monthly they are meeting, they are talking about issues in pharmacy, they are problem solving. And a lot of those people, their state exec or someone in their state recommended them to serve on a committee. And so really being involved even in your state makes a huge difference if you want to be involved nationally. But I feel like being involved on a state level can take you all the way from national to making a huge difference, even whether it's a bill that's passed that ultimately on the Hill, they're going to look at that.
I think that's really good advice because taking that first step, it seems really daunting when you're talking about a 14-year commitment, but just one small thing of participating and saying yes to an opportunity can kind of spark other opportunities and other interests and other things um, like that. So it can grow into really big things. But also, I'm with all of that. Uh, how have you managed to balance everything? Because that's a lot. That's a lot of a commitment. How can we, you know, balance family life and work life because you're still working during all of this that you're doing and running a successful business and everything else. So how do you do that? What's your secret?
Well, I don't have a secret sauce. I will say that. And I think everyone in my life will I just have to giggle a little bit because we all balance together for sure. But I I have said this so many times. I know there's a lot of our listeners that are they're moms or they want to be a mom one day. Um, Pharmacists raise amazing, strong kids. And I think part of our work life balance is just knowing that when we are intentional, we have to be intentional. You got to be in the moment. So when you are at the pharmacy, you're there. You're with your patients, and when you get home, that is where your heart is with your babies at home. And it's with your husband or your significant other, and they are priority. For me, my faith is really important, and so I do pray for wisdom. And I think whether or not you are faith based or where that is for you personally, having some sort of personal time every single day is important. So some sort of quiet time, meditation. I journal. And I think that making sure that I don't get into a negative self talk and having gratitude is very important. Um, so having balance, I think, is a lot about a mindset. We are not perfect, and we're not going to be perfect. I think we as females get so caught up in being perfect, perfect leadership, perfect home, perfect dinner at night, that sometimes it just kind of spirals out of control and then we're absolutely not balanced. But I think when we can realize, okay, it's peace over perfection, it's leadership's not going to be perfect, things are going to be messy. My house may actually be messy or whatever it is, then it helps us to feel balanced. And then when we have that inner calm, then that helps everyone else around us, whether it's the pharmacy, our kids, our husband. A calm female in a room is contagious. And that's at your house, that is in a public setting, that is at your pharmacy, wherever it's at. So I think that balance is a little bit I'm definitely not balanced. But, it's just it's all how you think of it.
Yeah. It's so funny you're talking about balance so much because I say that so frequently about all things. And just like you're saying, like, well, my house is a mess, but we had fun at the park today. So, balance, right? Like,
Yeah,
I'll
really.
find something positive to balance out the negative or if my son, if my son's being bad, you know, today, well, he was really cute yesterday.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes.
With on that note, like, if you especially since you journal, do you ever think of, like, what you would tell your past self as you look back on your career and your balance and all of that?
I've had people even ask me if you were talking, would you change anything, your past self, that sort of thing. I've definitely I mean, I have all sorts of I could journal a whole book of mistakes that I've made. And but I would on with my past self, I would not change anything of my pathway of how things have
Mhm.
gone. I feel like so we had a skincare line, for example, and we no longer is that skincare line on the shelf, but which breaks my heart. It was definitely part of my path. If I was journaling and telling my past self some things, there are some things I would say, okay, I wish you'd done this or wish you'd done that. But ultimately, it's now who I am. All of those things. Whenever we had the NCPA, I did my speech, my House of Delegates speech. I shared a Winston Churchill quote that success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And so I really I actually write that often. I definitely would journal that for my past self that and my future self, and I literally say that to my daughter when she's got a, hard exam in front of her, that you got to keep it up. You got to pull your bootstraps up and you got to keep going. And that's what we're called to do.
Well, we just appreciate that so much, Kristen. Your leadership is authentic. Everybody can feel it. It's just it's magnetic, and so I'm so excited about just following you this year, and reflecting a little bit on the ways you've already served. When you were chairman of NCPA, you got to take a couple of trips to the World Pharmacy Council. Let's share a little bit about the importance of those trips, the importance of what's happening in pharmacy in America, and then on the world stage.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you, Pam. So, what I found so interesting when I went to World Pharmacy Council is actually all of the free trade nations come together as basically the UN of pharmacy. So it might be the UK or Australia, Germany. I could go around the table, but you've got your little flag in front of you for your country, and everyone from around the world in the free trade nations tell what is positive that's happening in their world with pharmacy and challenges that they have. And something I found so interesting was when I served on my state level leadership, we had issues with scope of practice, we had reimbursement, and being able to source your drugs, whatever that was. I was actually in state leadership in the midst of COVID. So then, whenever I'm in national leadership, we are working on the Hill for scope of practice, reimbursement, and sometimes the issue with being able to source our drugs. We go to the World Pharmacy Council in this same every single country, same issues, scope of practice, reimbursement, and being able to source their drugs. It was amazing. So when I say being involved on the state level is so important, when I tell ladies, say yes when you are asked to lead, it is literally from the state nationally to the world pharmacy impact. Our leadership absolutely makes a difference. And it was very eye opening. Also, we are the only country that has PBMs. So, Canada, a little sprinkling of PBMs. But whenever we talked about the cost of GLP 1s in the US, the entire room gasped. And I had Israel was sitting beside me, and they wrote on a piece of paper, $144 is what we pay for our Ozempic, and passed it over to me. I couldn't believe it. And across the room, that was the case. We absolutely were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars more than anything else. So, right now with MFP and everything we're going through, it's just it's not easy. It's absolutely not easy, but it to fix us where it's going to take some hard, hard, hard times. I am confident that we're going to fix us with and be successful in that. But that is why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because every one of us need to be doing it. We have to fix this broken problem we have in the United States, and we are the most amazing country to serve in pharmacy. So we got to make sure it stays that way.
That is so it feels good to know that other people have the same problems we have, and then to hear the scope of what the drug costs are at other countries is it's so disheartening. And I feel that as an independent who, you're so tightly wound to PBMs, and then I was a chain pharmacist for a long time, and I, like, feel the crushing impact of, like, what that has on the profession of, like, you just go, go, go and never stop and not getting that scope of practice that you deserve and keep being told, like, "We're trying to elevate the profession," but you feel more and more like a short order cook or a McDonald's that's just, like, running around and, it's a hard
Exactly.
it's a hard line to tote with this profession, but it's such a great profession for so many things, and I remember when I was in high school and thinking of what career to go into, I worked at a chain pharmacy as a high schooler and just, like, cashiered, and my pharmacist was a woman, and she was like, "Listen, you need to go be a pharmacist. It's a great salary. It's easy for a woman to have this career and have a family." And the more and more I think about it, I still remember that conversation today about what a great profession this was, and it's never left me, and I just want that to keep going. Um, so it's fun to hear the things that hopefully are in the works to keep elevating the profession and having people join it and not get burnt out and keep going and, you know, standing up at the bottom level to go all the way to the top. Even if you don't wanna go all the way to the top, you could just stay at your, like, local levels and still fight the good fight.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point, Katie, because standing up at the local level, stepping forward, being willing to message your congressman, message your senator from your pharmacy in your community. Make sure your techs are doing that, your patients are doing that. All that is so important. Your state um, leadership, your national leadership, it your voice matters, and it truly makes a difference. And we do have an amazing profession that I truly believe pharmacy is a calling. It's not a profession for us. It is our calling, and our patients feel that when they're with us and when they're at our pharmacies. And so I think when we are the ones that are stepping up and we are telling that lawmaker what the challenges are, and so that we can continue to serve, it matters.
Agreed. Very much agreed.
Yeah. Mm. S Start with small things,
That's
small
exactly right.
steps.
That's right.
Kristen, I'm curious because we talked about, like, something that you think you might change, but what are some of the things that you're most proud of in your career?
Mm.
You're like
Um.
you're like, I am gonna toot my own horn on
o-
this. Do it."
Okay. Uh, well, I have had the opportunity to be a part of family businesses, and those businesses were all pharmacy related. My family are part of our ownership of our pharmacy, and worked with my dad for years. So proud of that. Absolutely love it. Learned so much from him. He's just been a tremendous mentor for me. And I would say this. I guess it's not completely business related, but I'm proud of my kids. So my kids are part of our business. They never necessarily worked at the pharmacy, but they were always at the
Are they
pharmacy.
They
pharmacists
grew up
now that
there.
they're grown?
They're they're not though. So I've got a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
He's our oldest. Our middle one will graduate in May of this year with ag business. And of course, we are on a farm, so he is kind of going in the family business, just my husband's business, really, on that side. And then my daughter is a sophomore at the University of Arkansas, and she's biology pre med. And so I have encouraged her. I'd love to see her go into women's health. I've told her whether it's family practice or, if she was a OB-GYN or specialist or whatever it is, just some sort of women's health. We are so thirsty for that
Yes.
in medicine, to have someone who is passionate about women's health. And so anyway, we're gonna solve the world's problems one day when she is a physician or a whatever, but she might still decide to go to pharmacy school. But whatever it is, she's going to help take care of those ladies,
There
because
you go.
I'm very passionate about that.
Well, I
Well,
think that
this
that's Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, I was just saying I think that that sounds like a wonderful thing to be most proud of.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I know that I keep kind of coming back to that mom thing of leadership, but it's sometimes, I know you guys know that I'm an empty nester now, and you guys mentioned kind of looking back and be able to see things with a different perspective. But when you're in the thick of it, and maybe you get a note home from a teacher for one of your kids, you could have a tough mom moment. And if you had been at the pharmacy and now you're getting a note home, you get this mom guilt, and it's tough. But then it's just you gotta have to talk. We talked about the mindset. You gotta step back and kind of think through it. Um, and so whenever you're on this side of it and everybody's rolling, it's just exciting. So I've shared with Pam, my kids were packing their own lunch as first graders. I was not the one to pack everybody's lunch. They did their own laundry, and they got to school and they were making everybody else's. They cooked for everybody. And so it's kind of part
Good
of
for
it.
them.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up mom guilt. We have had that conversation here before, and it's really I don't know if it's an internal trigger that we all put up on ourselves, but mom guilt is real. And we set these high expectations, and then, you try to manage so many different tasks, and that guilt comes in. There's probably some sort of therapy or breathing exercise or something we can do. I think you described it really well, how you take a step back, and that's perspective, and so I think that's fantastic advice, just to pause, take a step back, and say, "You know what? These are the good things that happened today," and bring in that thankfulness, and, I think that does change your mindset, so I think that's a great piece of advice for all of our listeners and for us personally because you know, Lindsay and Katie and I have that mom guilt conversation all the time. Like, how do we fit this in? How do we make this happen? So
Lindsay
that's
and
a
I have
great
COVID
tip.
babies, so they are something different.
Them COVID babies
Yeah.
are built different.
They are built different. They are hard.
Well, I definitely think that is real. Mom guilt is so real, and honestly, I think the enemy just likes to use that, and it's all part of that negative self-talk. It's so interesting. Just this last Sunday, I was at a little luncheon, and the lady that was talking, you were talking, Pam, about just stopping and breathing. And she reminded us, she said, before you walk into a busy room, or if it's at your house or at the pharmacy, being all of us being pharmacists, take 3 slow breaths and just still your mind. And I feel like whenever that we do, that's what we need to do. Whenever everything's going crazy, just stop, say a little prayer, or wherever you are, just breathe and have a moment of self-reflection and realize that I had somebody tell me once, think about it. Is this really going to matter in 10 minutes? Is this really going to matter in 10 days? Is this going to matter in a year or in 10 years? And think through that. And if it's really a lot of them in 10 minutes, it's not going to be a very big deal. Then, okay, let's step back and keep rolling. And I think that's good advice that sometimes I don't take personally.
It's hard to take all the advice. It's always there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I think that's fantastic advice. That I have a very hard time doing that. I think Jonathan is really great, as always saying, "Is that going to matter in 10 years?" And I'm like, "I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm in the moment, and
It's
I
right
feel
here,
like
right
it's a
now.
crisis." Yeah, and so I think that's just such great wisdom and insight. So I love that you have such a calm, prayerful approach to so much because I know your life right now as NCPA president is on fast mode. If we were at the fair, I would say Kristen's on the Himalaya. She's going
Mhm.
fast, faster, faster, faster. So I love that you have that peace about the way you approach things, and I can just see that shining through you, and so I think that's God given, and it's spoken into you, and it's just so inspiring to watch this play out, and to just for us to get to sit back and watch your leadership, how intentional it is, and how you're being present for your family, for your husband, for every female pharmacist in America. You're representing us on the world stage, so we couldn't be prouder of you and
Yes.
and what you're doing. So we certainly thank you from the Empower Her RX podcast crew, but I know that every female pharmacist in America is thankful for you and just extremely proud of your leadership. And so we thank you for coming on with us today and sharing your very personal story, sharing your leadership journey. And so we know our listeners are going to be so inspired by what they've heard today. And so, for our followers, we ask you to share your story, to join this conversation wherever you get your podcast. Check out our website at Empower Her RX. That's EMPOWHERX.com. So reflect on the women who've paved the way in your own pathway and say thank you to them. Also, share this episode with your colleagues, with pharmacy students who inspire you. And so, as we always say, until next time, keep writing your own her story with purpose, passion, and power.